Hi guys, I'm Hannah. I'm Marketing Director at Keiser, and I am joined by a very lovely panel today to talk about gym designs that attract and retain members. So first of all, we have Ian Kirby, who's the founder of LED Snaps. We have Maddie Simmons, who's part of the 3D design team at Lyco. And then finally, we have Jamie Banterman, who's head of commercial at the Fit. This app, would I call it an app these days? Yeah, SaaS product. So obviously we wanted to discuss gym design secrets with you today, and the point behind this panel really is to give some tangible takeaways. So it isn't just kind of opinion; it really is stuff that you can implement. So I'm going to start with my first opening question to you all, and feel free to whoever wishes to jump in, you may. When it comes to gym design, what are the most important elements when it comes to engagement and attracting members? What would they be? Feel free to start. I'm going to pick you up on bits as we go through. Oh, come on in, guys.
Strugglers.
Yeah.
We've started. Come on. Hi. Come on in.
So, especially in the independent market world, for
Yeah.
me, it would be owning your identity. So if you do have a niche, own that and capitalise on it. You're not going to please everybody with everything. But if you can do one thing really well and use your skills, use your staff skills, and maximise on the skills that you have.
I would say functional areas, as we know, the flow of functional areas. Having a impactful entrance as you come in. And I know that's not always possible. We've got a 24-hour gym. How do you make that impactful? But that sort of reception area, even if it's not manned, just by this week I was talking to a client who has a ceiling like this in his reception, and just by lowering with slats into the ceiling, you can break that height down as you walk in. And as we all know, some of the key things we keep forgetting, things like friendliness of the staff. The gym I went to before, you would be hit every day by a PT, right? And once if they got to know you, they didn't, but every day. The gym I'm in now, I never see a PT. And I don't mind that, but it'd be quite nice if some of the staff who were standing around in the PT station popped over and just said hi, just to be friendly. There's that. And my wife's just cancelled her membership, and she was a PT instructor, but she's cancelled because this particular gym because of the cleanliness of the showers. So she wants me to build a shower at work so that she can go to the gym and then shower at work. It's nice and clean.
So it's not always just the gym design. It's
design is
I think when we talk about design, we perhaps mean just the functional area. Perhaps we're but like you say correctly, we're thinking about the whole gym, not just the gym floor.
Yeah.
I think your experience is from signing up on the website to finishing your workout, going home, and planning your next one. So the experience goes far beyond 40-minute workout or whatever you do.
So it starts as soon as they want to associate or enter your gym space. Interesting. Jamie, your thoughts?
It's just reminding themselves.
Yes.
These things are important.
But actually the whole customer journey we could take into gym design as well. That's really interesting. Jamie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of it is like you need to understand your market. And I think that's across anything. Markets are evolving very quickly at the moment. I think like the Gen Z market is starting to really blow up in gyms. And like you say, the rise of things like High Rocks and other like functional fitness events. It's like how do you like go with the market? How do you continue to like continually improve and evolve your gym without spending a fortune, obviously, at all? Every time there's a new fad, but it's getting on the train early doors and riding it, and almost trying to build a facility that will cater to a market for a prolonged period of time rather than just kind of dipping in and out of it.
That's interesting, and that whole high rock saying is obviously fitness is now sport, isn't it? Which is pretty interesting. I find that fascinating. Maddie, I'm going to push this one to you first of all. So obviously affordability will be a concern, and rightly so, for all gym owners. Are there any tips that you could impart that would enable gym owners to design a really impactful space, really high quality, but it has to obviously be economically viable?
Yep.
How would you,
so
would you
it would
offer?
be knowing what you want to do and sticking to your guns. Don't spread yourself too thin, and then the most cost-effective way is looking at multi-use machines or equipment. Free weights being the most that you can do with, as opposed to static machines. And then it's around your programming, your PTing, and also how you educate your members as well. If members feel more confident with a piece of equipment, they're more likely to use it in multiple ways, or they'll understand how to use it a bit more. So there's this element of education as well to it.
Yeah, that comes back to Ian's point, doesn't it, about utilising your gym floor staff, so actually having them be part of that gym design as well.
Massively. And then you build a community through that, so your members feel like they're learning. So, I mean, we all want to learn things as well. So when you go to a gym as a first-time goer, you're not really going to understand. You've never been exposed to all these pieces of equipment and machines. That's what sessions and classes are really good to do, is to teach you how to use them. And there are some really, really creative ways of using, like a leg press. You think it's just a leg press, but actually you can. It's great for ankle and knee rehab. You know, so there's so much more that you can do with piece of equipment than what is originally or is sold or identified as.
Quite, and I think obviously when you have stuff on the gym floor that perhaps people don't know how to use as well, it kind of sits there and becomes very expensive, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Ian, anything to add on that point?
I'm a great one for single words, so paint is my single word for this one. As we came out of the pandemic, we were a new lighting company for this part of the industry, so I was supplying lighting to fitness via a third party. And during COVID, I decided to re-engineer the product so that you could buy it directly from me to cut that middle guy out. And that gave us straight away after, as we came out of the pandemic, contact from people in the industry saying, we're looking at your website, we've seen some of your videos, we're looking to add lights because it's a quick fix as we came out, because the members were coming back into the gym after 2 years saying, well, nothing's changed. Well, what do you expect? We were shut. And where's the revenue? So, and exactly, where's the revenue come from? So what I found really exciting at the start was that contact and people then taking a spin room that was white, like this, painting it black and putting the lights in. It was such a great contrast, and it was for no money. One of them had a glass window facing out to the car park, and they put plastic plants on that. So it's like a living wall that's not living, but it's such a great, simple way of changing things on a budget.
How does that impact members? How does that make them more likely to engage with the gym, though? Obviously, they look fantastic, but do you think it's just a nicer environment to be in? Like, how does that kind of...
Of course, that's going to make, isn't it? The nicer environment's going to make you want to come back. We did have a really nice comment on, I think, that particular gym put a thing up on their Facebook or Instagram, and a chap commented on there saying, I love that lead snap system, and I thought it was great. Offered him a job. But yeah.
I think to add to that as well, you've got, like I mentioned before, like the Gen Z, generation is blowing up in gyms. Like they're training 5-6 times a week in gyms. So how do you make a facility and I'm going to sound really uncool by saying this, but how do you make it cool? Like how do you make these members want to take photos in the gym of themselves and put it and push your brand? It's just free marketing, isn't it?
Push the reach, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
no, that's really interesting. Ian, I'm going to push this one to you next. Obviously, tech is such a huge part of fitness these days, and I'm sure we all see the same industry report, and every year I think the same thing, which is when I see fit tech as the #1 industry trend, I'd argue it's not actually a trend anymore, and it's rather a fundamental piece of the industry. Ian, sorry, Jamie, forgive me. Ian from Fit was supposed to be here. Apologies.
Sorry.
So how would you think that independent gyms, particularly, can really effectively implement those digital systems from the very point that they start designing their gym space, rather than sort of adding them as an afterthought? And then I think sometimes it can become overwhelming, it can become stressful. I know myself as a gym user, I go and I'm strapped on this, I'm turning on this, I've got 3 or 4 things to turn on before 100%. I start my workout. How do you integrate tech so that it enhances, doesn't distract from the experience?
I think there's probably a few different answers to this. The first one being, tech is complicated. And it's in a lot of ways difficult to implement in the facility, because you've got the member experience that you're worried about bringing your members involved with the tech, because they've already got, they might have the MyZone app, you might have you need to log into the gym, you might have your MyFitnessPal, you might have a training program on this. It's another app that I need to download. So you almost want to make it as seamless and easy as possible for members to actually use. Just get on the app, get on whatever you want to do. If you want to bring a virtual product in, for example, how can we make that seamless? How can it be a not too many touch points for the member to join? You know, it's like on the fit workouts, for example, we have like a QR code. So a member will physically just come in with their phone, scan the QR code, they're in the class. It's really easy, it's really simple. And I think that's where we want to like create, because I think as a gym, if you're going to invest in anything, it's all about investing to either retain members or member acquisition. And that's obviously the key, because you're increasing revenue, right? So the idea is for this is to make it as easy as possible, improve the member experience, and then, you know, have a virtual product that's actually both effective and efficient. Because, you know, a lot of classes, a lot of sessions in the past have been almost a bit boring. Like, oh, there's another virtual player in front of me. Wow, great! I'll be involved for maybe 3 sessions.
And how would you begin that kind of process with the gym owner? Because obviously it's great if you have a QR code there, of course, but of course that doesn't just appear on the wall by itself. Like, obviously you need to engage with the gym, and you need to sort of, how does that conversation happen? And
I think, you know,
those relationships.
A lot of it is like the way you market any new product. Because obviously, like, there's always sticky points when you bring in a new product into a gym. You know, change isn't always easily receptible when it comes to members. But again, having like almost like a marketing campaign around, you know, how to like bring that into the gym, how a member will basically take value from this new product that you've brought. And again, if they see the value, if they see, you know, that they're going to help, you know, progress their training, progress like any whether it's nutrition as well, it could be anything, whatever this tech might be. If it's going to help them and it's going to get results, then they're likely to actually buy into it. And then from that point, once they're bought in, it's that, you know, it's what I was about to touch on before. It's how do you keep them engaged throughout? So, like, you know, can we gamify things? Can we bring a little bit of connectivity? How do you start pulling in, like, for example, we bring connectivity to wearables, where it's MyZone, where it's Heart, where it's the Apple Watch, where it's a Whoop. We bring connectivity with hardware, it's a Concept 2, you know, Wattbike, or whatever that might be. You're starting to then really bring this like fully gamified, connected experience for your members, and that's where virtual fitness becomes interesting and something that can be a really nice add-on to your in-person product. I think to kind of caveat that, virtual for me will never replace in-person fitness. The touch points of in-person fitness is unbeatable. Because you, as a coach, you can just go, oh, change that. Let's fix this. Let's move this around. But it's an addition. Virtual is an addition to bring a really strong user experience to your market, and that's where I think we can where virtual fitness has a place in any facility really.
Maddie, do you have any thoughts on where we can?
Yeah, I think in terms of like the hardware. Yeah, in terms of like the hardware and and where to put it in a space, I think you don't want to put it in for the sake of putting it in. If you're going to go for tech, then you commit to it. You do the work in the back end, behind the scenes, that it is seamless for your members, and that it is really, really easy for members to either tap in or electively not tap in. They can still be part of the class, but they're maybe not on the grid. You've got the choice, but the choice is easy. Tech can be amazing. It can really transform a space. You can go from apps to like having a wallscape completely change from forest to sea. So you can really change environments with some very, very cool tech. But if it's not done to its maximum capacity, then it doesn't often work, and it's often very obvious that it's not quite there. So if it works for you and it works for your business model and your identity, then I think you've just got to commit to it. And don't overkill it, I think, is the thing. Sometimes less is more. Keep it really, really specific, and make sure it works right before you expand it or go harder with it.
I think that's where suppliers have to be so careful to work properly with gyms to make sure that it's implemented. Like you say, that piece you raised about keeping engaged, like I've definitely signed up to stuff and stopped using them rather quickly. Yeah. And I think that's really important. And then it becomes expensive. It doesn't become something that you've invested in, it becomes an expense. And I think that change, mindset-wise, can happen very quickly. So I think we definitely have to do what we can to support.
I think in terms of working with partners, I'm very big on less is more. And if you are being pushed to do something bigger than you're comfortable with, assess if that's the right partner for you. Every project or every concept you look at should be worked around, does it work for your members, your identity, and how you want to be seen? And if it's pushing you out of your comfort zone is really good. We know that's the basis of training, isn't it? But if it's pushing you to feel like you're compromising on something else, then it's possibly the wrong avenue, or is there a better way or a better solution to do it?
It's very important that tech enhances. It doesn't take that sort of personal touch that independent gyms are so great at. It's so very important. Ian, I'm going to come to you now. So obviously we've talked about technology. How can things like lighting and visual tech be leveraged to create like motivating environments? Obviously we talked about the enhance and how it feels nicer, but are there perhaps specific trends in lighting design, for example, or specific trends in interior design that may help that experience and help
motivational, yeah. Let's talk about the demotivational. So my first experience of a spin class, 2010, I fell ill after eating a bad fish pie. I think I told you this story. I was in northern France at the time. I ended up in a coma for 3 weeks, in hospital for 3 months.
Jeez.
Evacuated back
Really
to the
bad.
UK by ambulance. Yeah, and spent the next month in a NHS hospital and couldn't walk, couldn't go to the toilet, anything. So as part of that rehabilitation process, you're not allowed to leave hospital until you can walk up 3 flights of stairs, for example. Once you're out of that environment, they said, well, you need to go to a gym. Luckily, my wife was a PT. All of her PT friends that obviously we knew all said, bring Ian in and we'll train him for free, just bring him in. So I started off life on a treadmill. And back then, technology was MTV, or Sky News.
MTV.
How did we work out to Sky News? That's not very motivational, is it? No. So I was working out today, eventually ended up in the spin room, which is why I'm here today. And in the spin class, basically, there was just 2 lamps like this, and they would press a button on the wall, and these 2 lamps would just flash for the entire duration of the class. Now, let's talk about retention on that. I found that mind-numbingly boring. I found the fact that the music was the same. They wouldn't change the music. Sorry, this is our program. We have to run this every class. So I knew what the next track would be on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if it's a particularly hard track, it puts you off going, even though you know you've got to do it. So I think if the music was changing, so it was more randomised, that would help. Obviously, it has to be within a framework. But for the lighting, I knew that I could make the lights react to the BPM of the class. That was my key point. And I came away and designed a system to do that. I didn't know how to sell it to the gym industry. This was back in 2012. So I approached a company whose sticker was on the side of the TV showing MTV and Sky News, and got them to sell it to the industry. And they supplied Virgin, Banner Times, everybody. I think we did about 800 gyms up to about just before the pandemic. And then they stopped buying. I thought, it's strange, why they're not buying? And when I made a call to them, the reason they'd stopped buying was they said, we have filled up all the corporates. Oh, what about all the independents? And I found out that the system I was selling them for £5,000 or £6,000, they were selling for 20,000. So you can imagine, you don't need me to tell you, for an independent, that's not going to work. So during the pandemic, I used the fact that I was out of work to redesign the system to be sold directly to a gym, independent gym, for £5,000 or £6,000. That was my motivation. And I wanted to get rid of the PC that ran it, because PCs go wrong, suddenly you have a Windows update, stop working. Got rid of all those things, made a really simple system, plug and play. So from a technology aspect, we've now got a system that reacts to the BPM of the class, which makes it more immersive. And an article I read in HCM told us that an immersive class, whether that be video, audio, lights combined, can increase membership by, I think it was 50 or 60%. That was done for one of the big chains up in Scotland. Going forward then, as what Jamie was referring to, there's some really interesting integration going on.
Okay.
Because different manufacturers all have their own system, and we're the guys sitting in the middle, not competing with anyone. We're not selling treadmills with our own proprietary software. So we're talking to everybody. And you want our lights to react to, so my phone's on as well, funny enough. You guys want your lights to react to the zoning of the class and what's going on in the class. We need to connect to apart from doing the BPM, if you want the class to go red, we want the lights to go red. To enable us to do that, we need to take data from the machines you're using, whether that's going to be a treadmill or it's going to be the bikes or whatever. Some manufacturers are more open to chatting than others.
But as a trend, so kind of matching, I guess, the light to the effort of the class, intensity of the class.
We're at
that would be, yeah.
What we're at now. But you know, we were talking about MyZone earlier. So MyZone, for example, you have 5 colours, right? Because it's working off your heart rate, you know your heart rate drops relatively slowly when you're at maximum speed, right? It's not going to drop off a cliff. So in terms of what it's doing with the lights, if we go from red to green, it's going to take quite a while to transition through those colours. And we had a meeting at FIBO with Intelligent Cycles, who are taking the information a different way. That information's worked off the torque of the flywheel. So you can imagine, if you come off the flywheel weight quickly, the light's going to react really fast. So looking at a chart of the workout, the light reaction over that class is 10, 20 times what it would be using a system like MyZone. So that technology is improving. And one thing I wanted to tell you guys about was something else we'll introduce this year, which is a light that replaces the spectrum of light that's missing from when we're outside. You know, when you go outside, you think, oh, it feels so nice to be outside.
Yeah.
That's all the spectrum of light coming from the sun. We can't recreate that with lighting indoors. We miss parts of the spectrum with LEDs, but that will change this year. So we'll be introducing, probably amongst other people, a system that will give you all of those light spectrums. So how that works for you as a gym, you're lighting your space, your customers are going out and thinking, I feel really good after that workout. They've had a good workout, but the lights helped. Also helped the staff.
Yeah, particularly I spent a
Right,
lot. I
because
spent
you're
a
gonna
lot of my youth
staff
in
can get
basement
quite
gyms.
sleepy if
Yeah.
it's standing. If the lighting's bad. So these bits of technology from a lighting side.
I really
quite
like
good
that
coming
piece
through.
about the daylight, or the thing
Yes,
that you
the
have
thing
with the
when you go
lighting.
outside.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That kind of influence.
It'll be an addition to wellness, and we're in the wellness
Yeah.
industry, aren't we?
That's a really interesting trend. I should be excited to
Well, yeah.
hear more about
Let's
that
have
for
to
sure. Definitely. I think there's some huge benefits there, not just with workout, but you say kind of like staff mental health
Yes.
as well. That's really interesting,
Yeah. It's
particularly.
important for NHS and stuff like that,
Yeah.
where they've got really low levels of light
Yes.
in,
No,
in
that's-
nurses' stations.
That's a really interesting trend, particularly in this lovely autumn that we're having in July at the moment. So hopefully that will perk us all up a little bit. Maddie, did you have any bits on sort of specific, more lighting trends? Then we can move on to the next.
No, the natural
Question.
lighting would
Yeah.
be my big one. I'm a big, COVID trained outside in the garage. So for me, going back in the gym, I found really difficult. Plus, it was hot. I was like, I'm not used to being not in a beanie hat and gloves in North Wales. So natural lighting, I think we need to look back at good movement, good nutrition, good routines, good habits, and lights are a big one. And I think unless you're restricted to maybe London basements and city centres, moving out of these basement gyms is going to be the move forward, and a lot of people are wanting that more.
Yeah, we were talking
Environmental
earlier,
connection.
weren't
We were, yeah.
about the
Yeah.
supermarket type lighting. If you go down
Yeah.
to the exhibition floor when you leave and just look at the lights, you think, well, this is pretty terrible, really. But some of the gyms look like that. Just got that flat white lighting across the
I think
ceiling.
perhaps something we don't consider often how
No,
how
I'm
much of
always doing
impact
this.
that can have. That's really interesting.
It's really difficult to understand how much light affects us. Like, it's not quite quantitative in your day-to-day, what you do day-to-day.
Yeah.
But the light theory is huge. I mean, you can see it when you've got a red light injury treatment, just being able to put those pads. That's how powerful light can be. And same with sunlight. You always feel better when you have that. And the more natural a light you can be exposed to, the better it is, really. So I think, light is definitely...
So
The
trending.
quality of light
Yeah.
is going to be more and more important, and away from these black gyms necessarily. But if that's your identity, own it, absolutely own it. Don't be afraid of that.
Because I think that can work well, because like some of the clubs,
Yeah.
Rebel and things in London, for example, have
Yeah.
that very dark light, and that can work, but that natural light trend is interesting. To move on then, so specialist gyms often focus on a particular type of workout or perhaps a demographic, and then obviously you have kind of box solutions also. I'll go to you first, Jamie. What would you say the pros and cons of each format are, and how can independent gym owners decide which format works for them? It's whether they go more...
Sorry,
box
repeat
and box.
that. the
So
first bit.
obviously there's a wide variety of ways
Yeah.
that people can go. You can go sort of trend specific, you
Yeah.
can go kind of box and box.
Yeah.
We're actually talking about the design, the very first step. What kind of gym do I want to open? What kind of space do I want to have? Or if you're reinventing something post-COVID, for example, how
Yeah,
do gym owners decide that?
I feel like I'm saying the same answer over and over again here, but I think it always depends on what your target audience is. What does your market actually want and require? And I think, I've been in different businesses and obviously gyms as well. When I, from back in the day when I was PT, and I think, you kind of go, you're almost like guessing before you actually know the audience, what the need is. And I think it's actually like finding the need of the client, finding the need of the member, and then you build a user experience around that need. And that actually then goes, that's how you retain those members, because they feel like they've been a part of that early process of building something with you. And especially for like independent gyms, like, I'm a member of an independent gym, and, being a part of that gym community from like helping develop the different structures in there. It might be how we're going to build this class format, or there's certain specifics in the gym that you really want and you require. I think the beauty of being an independent gym is that members have that interaction with you, and they're just not another member. They're not another just body and another payment into your system. So yeah, I think that would be, it's like understand the audience, understand your market, and then building something around them that actually suits them.
Interesting.
I might go the other way.
Oh, I thought you might. I thought you might. I think I would as well.
As with independent
Well, I
gyms,
don't
you've
know.
got the luxury that this is
Yeah.
your project and your baby. So you know how you want to coach, what you'd like to coach. You know the staff you have. Staff retention is a huge issue in this country.
Also recruitment.
And recruitment is
Yeah.
really difficult. So if you've got good staff retention, you're showing that investment in your staff, and that's going to build a stronger community, because the members that do come know the people, they know them, they may know, they can see someone walk in and go, maybe you're not feeling great, so let's just watch this person. They'll get to know you and your habits. So I would say look at your skill set, look at what you want to be, and then run with it. And then if you can enhance the staff that you already have, train them in, if you're S&C specifically, or maybe more like on the medical side, then you go, okay, let's look at stroke rehab training and expand your skill set in your niche that you want to be in. I think, not that I'm saying put members second, but especially within an independent, it's your identity. And to make it that you don't have to compete against the other gyms around, own what your identity is, and then you're not competing with anyone other than yourself, really, and develop and invest in yourself and your staff.
I think you could argue by playing to your own personal strength, you're actually
Absolutely.
serving your audience better, because it's
Yeah.
something you fully behind. I'm not saying you can't buy I absolutely understand UX
Yeah.
and knowing your audience, of course. But I think actually owning your strengths and times, you can actually deliver a much better
Yeah.
experience because it's more
I
authentic.
think on that, you then need a team of good and again, this is difficult to get
People
right.
to believe your vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you need a team of good coaches to be able to facilitate that. And
At the moment, I would back that up, because there's 10 of us, isn't there, in the team, and it is my gym, my baby, my passion. I've handed over to the team to develop their passions, which
Yeah.
in turn spreads to a bigger market.
I would agree. I have my own space too, and I had a vision, and everyone that comes in, they kind of feel a bit more authentic. Yeah, I understand both points, absolutely, but I think in the independent space,
Your
yeah.
passion, your skill, but you obviously need that bigger market. So bringing other people in with their passions, letting them grow, develop your...
That's really interesting.
It works.
It's so much more
a bit more
authentic,
have you got
isn't
more
it?
security with that as well? Because
Yeah.
you know your team are invested in the space. It's not a 6-month thing, 6 months out with your PTs. They're invested as well. And you've got that little bit of peace of mind and safety that this space is, yes, I own it, it's mine, but it's owned by all of us.
Yeah,
They work in tandem as well, doesn't it? It's like
Yeah.
the coaches, you've now got this amazing team of coaches that you're happy with, and they're delivering world-class products across each specific skill set. And then the members, the member experience then just goes, well, I'll align myself with that coach because I love what he or she is doing. And,
How they work and
it kind of...
also they like the variety.
yeah.
To me, for a bit of good cop. Comes a bit of like 80s music. Boys with a bit of, and they get nice variety then as well, don't they?
That is that's the absolute strength of it, independent space. It really is. We are going to move on to the closing question, but I just wanted to recap some of the points that we've been discussing. So obviously, originally we talked about sort of those fundamental basics that I know we all know, but perhaps we don't always consider as part of gym design. So like you say, what does the welcoming area look like? Like owning that identity, what's the flow of the space? Like what's the UX? Like if I come in, where do I park? All of those things need to be considered. Obviously looking at your market, Maddie, I love the point you made about the equipment that you have in your gym floor, making it multi-use perhaps, particularly if space is at a premium. Education of equipment, I loved that piece.
Massively.
So it becomes an investment, not an expense. Like I'm sure we all have these coat hanger items. I have a bike in my lounge that is a coat hanger, unfortunately, more so than not. But that kind of confidence piece with equipment is absolutely key. The other part that Ian, you mentioned about keeping people engaged, and Jamie, so we have tech there, but we mustn't just sort of have a small poster on a wall and a QR code with no explanation, no sort of engagement into what it is. And then finally, we talked about the wonderful strength of independent gyms, which is you have got that individuality and that security in that to explore whatever format works for you and kind of that authentic pace there. So my closing question then is which, obviously independent gym owners need to be evolving and preparing for a changing landscape. We have all multitude of challenges being thrown at us all together at one time, and we've overcome and adapted so much over the last few years already. Are there any trends or sort of specific elements within gym design specifically, let's say the next 5 years, that you think independent gym owners should prepare for or be aware of, perhaps?
Who wants to run first?
Jamie, I'm going to come to you.
You're
'cause
going?
I'm going to say what I said before. High Rocks.
Go for it.
It's High Rocks. High Rocks is the
That whole fitness as a sport
yeah.
thing.
It's
yeah,
like
interesting.
it's amazing. I mean, we've got a partnership with High Rocks, so I know their thought process behind this quite well. They're creating what was basically what is a really simple movement, a set of movements, and they've just made it into this like huge community that is readily available to effectively anyone. You know, I'm sure there's people in the room who's done High Rocks before, and you know, you can be next to someone who looks like they've never trained in their life before, and you can be next to this like god of a man sprinting past you. Well, yeah, but I mean, my experience with that, the reason I said that then is because I felt like a little chubby boy when I was running down. I was running around one of these
So did
events,
I.
and these like 3 or 4 guys in front of me, like they were built like giants. I was like, what is this? But then you realise like this is a community that has become readily available, and I think as a gym, if you can just tap into it, like just be a small part of that system by just enabling people to train within that community, they just all of a sudden they go from your community, which is a nice small niche within your space, and that then becomes like a small piece of a bigger one, a really big one. And you know, I think the way they're growing is being a part of that niche is just it's good. It's the way forward, in my opinion.
Ian, would you have any thoughts? I'm sure you've got lots of thoughts, but on that specific question, if possible.
Yeah, I'm a man of many thoughts, that's for sure. I remember I had some mentoring, as many of us perhaps did over COVID, through the local Chamber of Commerce. Actually, that's a really good place for, if you're not a member of a local chamber and you're an independent gym, join. Because for me, I make no business through local Chamber of Commerce. There's no access to business, but for gyms, being able to talk to corporate companies in your location and perhaps being able to offer membership discounts for them bringing all their staff in is a fantastic place to meet people for you guys. And for me, not so much, but it was interesting having mentors on board during COVID because the government supplied these people, and talking to them helps you sort of think about resetting. What am I doing right? Is this the right direction? Should we be changing stuff here? And we were talking earlier about the lighting, which we were talking about future trends, the wellness lighting. This would be a big trend going forward. And lighting is just going to get more and more connected to you. For example, I see the fact that in the future, entertainment and fitness are going to merge. So I remember looking at a
They
workout.
already are, aren't they, Jamie?
Right.
At Fit?
Yeah. So
already
already people having DJs on a Friday or Saturday evening, right? It's there already. So we're merging these two industries, and there's no point trying to say, I don't want to be involved with that because it's coming and our members are used to it. And members are used to going to see concerts and seeing lots of lights. And the lights are there not to play music. They're there to enhance the atmosphere. And that's what the lights are doing. So this is very much on trend because if we can enhance the atmosphere, we can get retention. And that's what you're all driving, right? Maddie?
So we sort of touched on that community element. We've touched on lighting, enhancing experience.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing a lot more of, and I work across, I design facilities for collegiates, home gyms all around the world, so I really do get exposed to a lot. And I think what I find the most interesting, and I'm really picking up on, is I have previously competed, but it's the everyday well-being and wellness. So I think maybe not in 5 years' time, but in 10 years' time, you're going to have my generation, Gen Zs. We're looking at this, I don't like the phrase ageing population because it sounds like they're less able, which is far from true. But there's going to be older generations that go to the gym every day because it's good for them. So I think, not that we need to taper what is in gyms, that's far from it, because I've met some insanely strong people that are way older than me, way less limbs and way stronger, and just unbelievable what some people can do, what anyone can do. But I think that we need to be aware of fitness, but at a more average, or less specialised, less competitive level.
More for longevity.
More, thank you, yeah, more for longevity.
Suitable for everybody. That's
Absolutely.
always my
Yeah,
vision, anything that we
yeah.
use in. Like we've just run a games, like a bit like High Rocks and mini games, and I designed it so that it was suitable for people who were in the 60s and 70s, and suitable for people who were in the 20s, racing together in different categories with different levels, but all feeling like they've. I think that's the
Yeah, got a
future.
part. I mean, I'm very, very confident in gyms. I will go in any rust bucket with blokes grunting, deadlifting, and I will lift anywhere. But I know a lot of people aren't, and I know the longer you sort of leave it, the more nervous. And maybe I am picking up on the female side of it, but people can really find it intimidating to go into gyms and to lift weights. But more and more people want to be able to do it at that standard. So I think there is just this. So I think CrossFit has done wonders for so much, but it's also had that intimidating factor. So as an independent gym, you're lucky enough that you are going to be able to know your identity, know your space, and members will know what they're getting, that you can use that. But yeah, I think fitness for everybody is what's really going to grow.
I would agree with all of that. I definitely think that longevity piece is key. And I think I also see a lot of Keiser and a lot of my own spaces that I go in, people sort of wanting to live like athletes. So people are looking at their nutrition, they're tracking their sleep, they're tracking their performance, like all of these things. So I do think this it's something I try to push at Keiser, is like everyday athlete that we're kind of working toward. I definitely think that's a huge trend. I am conscious we don't have a lot of time left. I wanted to open up for any questions because I know, like Glastonbury, there's lots of other stages for people to get to downstairs. So did anyone have any questions for the guys at all? Don't be shy. No, all good. There we go. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us.